People who have done it with a friend's mom, what happened and what happened after. I got super drunk at my friend's mother's house. We all did really, but mainly me and the mom. But I'd come as a friend who was going through a bit of a rough time, and it was supposed to be a nice surprise. My friend was going to her mom's for a nice night of merriment, and the mom told me I should come to cheer her up, which I agreed was a good idea. Everything started out fine, but as she and I got more drunk, we started kind of flirting. Something that had actually happened before when we were both drunk. Then, when it was time for everyone to go to bed, I snuck into her mom's room. My friend totally knew, a fact I wasn't aware of until a little while after, but her mom then had to drive me to the train station to go home the next day. What happened after is I, like a complete coward, never apologized. Even after I found out my friend knew, and I lost that friend. They deleted me from social media and didn't speak to me for almost 2 years. We reconciled recently. I sent a long text a couple of months back apologizing and letting my friend know how much I miss them. They then recently reached out because they found out I'm expecting my first baby. I'm very happy to be back in contact with this friend. When I was 20, I got accepted to university in Canada. I'm a French guy. And my mom put together a barbecue to celebrate it with my best friends, among which was my actual best friend, a girl my age, who lived far away, so she would stay the night. My mom and dad were already getting divorced and sleeping in separate rooms back then, so there was no doubt they would ever get back to normalcy in terms of their relationship. After most people left, and I was drinking my way around talking about Canada with another friend, my now former best friend and my dad made sure my mom went to bed and carried on drinking together. All I remember after is trying to figure out where the heck my friend was in the morning, as the guest room was empty. It took so much fighting denial to realize she had been sleeping with my dad all night. Mom was destroyed, so was I. They both denied it and said that they just talked. I still can't believe this happened, but in retrospect, my dad has been such a crap dad to his kids and wife, and that friend has not been nice to me either. Had done it with my ex-girlfriend's mom in high school. I was 18, so it was technically legal. She recently became a single mom just a year or two prior, and you could tell that she was really trying to get out there more. Very good looking, not even just for her age. Worked in real estate, but I don't think she liked to mix things up with work and clients, which I think was hard because she was very successful in the area. Anyways, her daughter and I dated for over a year until we broke up. I went over to retrieve some of my stuff. My ex-girlfriend wasn't there because she couldn't stand to see me, so it was just her mom and I. She was overly friendly, but not acting out of the norm until I was leaving, and then she said, "If there's anything you ever need at all, please call me." I thought that was weird, but we exchanged numbers and I left. A week or two later, she began texting me. Eventually, she'd invited me over to watch movies, and again, I thought that was weird and some sort of ruse to get me over there to reunite the relationship with her daughter. But then she said her daughter was staying at her sister's and she was so bored she might finish this wine bottle all by herself. A few drinks actually sounded good, and getting booze at that age was hard, so I agreed. I'll spare you the details, but it didn't take long for it to happen once I got there. It was a great time, but I wasn't exactly proud of it because I was going through a lot at the time, as was she. I kept it to myself and never told anyone. We met up another time, but had to be quick to avoid her daughter, who was set to get off work soon. And after that, I realized I didn't want to do it anymore. And a few weeks later, I shipped out to the military and left my entire old life behind anyway. We haven't spoken or seen each other since. My brother's best friend from high school dated my mom in his 30s. She had my brother really young, when she was barely 15, so when his friend was in his 30s, she wasn't yet 50. I always remember the night he found out. They fought, and my brother's friend left the house and got into his car. My brother followed him out and punched him in the head through the driver's side window. He managed to go through the window and still connect with enough force to knock him out cold. A friend at school's mom was pretty good looking. She was relatively young compared to most of our moms, and his dad was quite a bit older and absolutely minted. When we were young teenagers, it was a bit of a running joke to give him crap about his hot mom or how his dad was her sugar daddy. Fast forward to the end of sixth form, and that's the end of high school for you US readers, when we were all 18 and he was having a party at his massive house to celebrate. Most people were outside getting drunk in the garden, but I'd had a few bad months, family stuff, so wasn't really feeling it. I decided to go and chill inside for a bit, and in the kitchen I found his mom, just drinking wine and looking forlornly out the window. I asked if she was okay, and she pretty much unloaded all her issues. She was miserable. She hated his dad, she'd settled down without having a life first, felt trapped because she couldn't afford to leave, loved her kids, etc. I opened up about my issues too with my family, and it actually felt good to talk to a relative stranger about it. I now realize I should have been seeing a therapist. Anyway, one thing led to another and she started making out with me. And I didn't stop her. She then led me upstairs and the rest is history. Now on the one hand, it was pretty awesome. She was smoking hot, I was pretty inexperienced, and she really knew how to communicate in the bedroom. On the other hand though, I knew I was betraying my friend and ruining up his parents' marriage. Plus, I could hear all my friends laughing and partying outside. A few months later, they got divorced, and I understood she got a bit shafted in the deal because she cheated on him. Now, I don't know if that was me or if she did it with someone else too. I am pretty ashamed about it, but I also realized that she was using me too. I was never under any illusion that we had some special connection or anything, but I can see she just wanted to do it with somebody out of catharsis or frustration and maybe, subconsciously, to force the problems in the marriage into the daylight so she could finally get out. I hooked up with my student's mom. I was teaching an after-school program, so I saw her almost every week at pickup. Sometimes her husband would pick up, and yes, she was married. And we would talk a lot to the point that we became friendly. Well, I was going through a divorce and happened to bring that up one time, and she very quickly gave me her phone number, put her hands on me, and she was not being shy about it. Something like out of a movie. Next time I saw her, she asked me out to lunch, and I said sure. We met up, had lunch, she paid, and she went on to tell me about how her and her husband were not involved with each other and they were free to see other people. We went back to my place and the deed was wild. That was the only time we hooked up though, as I started dating someone shortly thereafter. Her kid was one of those "I'll do your mom" Xbox Live kids, so I would just chuckle to myself when I saw him. I was at a friend's birthday party. My friend was in her mid-20s and I was 30. Her mom was in her early 50s. She and her mom took really good care of me after my father passed, and they made sure I was eating and that I actually left the apartment every day, as I was prone to just sit around being a depressed, sad sack. Friend's mom and I used to get stoned together. So when we were at her daughter's birthday party at her mom's house, she called me to her room so that we could take a smoke break. She didn't want to do it in front of everyone. So it was somewhat familiar territory. Maybe it was the wine, but as we were smoking and chatting, I just leaned in and kissed her. To my surprise, she kissed me back, and we proceeded to make out like a couple of young teenagers on the love seat in her bedroom. She stopped for a moment, looked at me and said, "Well, if I had known you were interested, we could have done this a long time ago." We made out a little more, and I told her that we should stop because we were going to get caught. So we kissed a little more and returned to the party. The next day, she stopped by my apartment to see how I was doing, which wasn't uncommon, and that day was slightly different. She was always a very good-looking woman, but that day, she had more carefully applied makeup, some nice-looking earrings, and a blouse that showed off more cleavage than usual. I invited her in, and we were off to the races. We both had a great time, but I thought of my friend and said that we probably shouldn't do this again. She didn't really respond to it, and we continued to cuddle for a while. The next day, she called me and said that she thought she must have lost her earring on my bed or my couch, which I thought was BS, but it turns out the earring was indeed in between the cushions of my couch. She came over to retrieve it, and we went at it again, and again, and again. This went on for months until I finally was moving out of state, and it never happened again. We never spoke of it, and my friend never found out. Sadly, my friend's mom passed away 5 years ago. I thought about telling her, but it just seemed like a bad idea.